Hello, welcome everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started because it is 3 p.m. and we want to make use of the full hour of this panel. All right. So we're here in the panel. Make sure you're in the right room. Community care and solidarity with food workers. But before I get started, I'm going to kind of open the space in the ways of my people. And I'm going to ask a question that is not meant to be offensive, but it's for protocol. For all my elders in the room, if you could raise your hand. I would just like to acknowledge you all and look to you all for permission to get this panel started. So that's why I'm asking for all our elders, or the other word that we use, seniors in the room. I just want to look to you for permission. Okay. Rosalinda, do I have your permission to open and get this work? Thank you so much. There might be others. But that is just the way. I'm from Alimentando al Pueblo, and that is how we open all of our work, is asking for permission from our elders in the space to be able to go on and carry the word and bring to you the knowledge and wisdom that needs to be brought to you all today. I am super honored to be on this panel with these two incredible women. My name is Roxana Pardo Garcia. I'm the co-founder and architect of Alimentando al Pueblo. We are a community and culture building organization based in Burien, and we serve the Latino population of South King County. And I am going to pass the mic to you all. Tweety, if you want to kick us off we're just going to do real quick, your name, what agency you're with, and what is it that you do at the agency that you are at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roxana. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Talo falava. My name is Tweety Fatwesi. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Community Services Program Director for Utopia Washington. Utopia stands for the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance. We are a queer and transgender Pacific Islander-led nonprofit based out in the city of Kent. And my role specifically as the Community Services Program Director is to provide mutual aid and support to our community members. In one hand, we currently have our Care Work program, which offers one-on-one case management support for folks that are looking to access resources around housing, food, employment opportunities, but also healthcare. And then on the other hand, we have our Food Access Network program, which currently leads our Utopia Makeki, or our community pantry. Makeki is the Samoan terminology for pantry, so I'll be saying that a lot. In addition to that, we also have our Fa'atoanga, which is our farmland that's been cultivated through partnerships with King County and other nonprofit organizations at the Horseneck Farm location in Auburn. So that's just a little description of my role and the organization that we're here to share with you all about. Thank you so much.
So my name is Rosalinda Guillen. I am the founder of Community to Community Development, where I think we're into our 21st year this year in Whatcom and Skagit County, but we have a pretty broad influence throughout the state in the work that we do. So we're a women-led, farm worker-led organization. We have a cooperative farm in Everson, Washington. We're fortunate enough to now actually own 60 acres and be able to farm, give farm workers the opportunity to farm the way they believe farming and food production should be done. So we're not a service organization. Sometimes I don't think we're even an organization. We are a movement. And our model is organizing to build a base and build power for farm workers and all folks involved in the food system, because overall, our goal is food sovereignty in our community for everybody. And that includes farmers, it includes the eaters, it includes the growers, it includes everybody that's producing food. I just want to quickly read our belief statement. We believe that another world is possible and that we are active participants with other popular people's movements. We strive to reclaim our humanity by redefining power in order to end settler colonialism, capitalism, and patriarchy in their external and internalized forms. The impact that we're looking for is that we will be, at some point, we said by 2020, we're a little behind, but we're getting closer, a self-governing solidarity economy center, fostering political movements, defining their own agendas towards the creation of local solidarity economies. So we're a movement and being centered by farm workers through the Latino, mostly Mexican farm worker perspective in Washington state. And of course, led by women. We do work with men, but women decide. Thank you. Until it is no longer needed for us, right? Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry.
I want to highlight something because we have, myself included, our agencies are all led by the very people that we serve, that we're in community with. And I think that oftentimes when we think about food work, we think about it, mainstream culture thinks about it in isolation of its connection to heritage and culture and movements. And I just really want to amplify and lift up in this moment, and who you have on this stage are people leaders in our community who look at food as it is connected to all aspects of our life. And so I just really wanted to lift that up in this moment because that's different. It's the indigenous knowledge that we carry, and that is why we move in those ways.
I wanted to correct myself, and I apologize. Apologize, Isaac. When we say women, our organization and our movement really centers itself on ecofeminism when we're talking about gender. And so everything that we do is like trying to get past that binary gender definition or description. As you notice, my age, I'm catching up. But I wanted to honor that and say that because it is centered in a lot of the work that we do in our organization.
Thank you, Rosalinda. Want to acknowledge that it's Monday. It's the last Monday of the month. We're here at a food conference talking about food. And so I just wanted to check in with y'all on how you're coming into this panel. How are you doing? How are your communities doing in this moment? So that gives us the context to be able to continue our conversation.
Thank you. I'm doing okay. It's been quite the day. And I feel like our communities right now are very, very vulnerable when you look specifically at queer and trans individuals, but most especially our queer and trans youth. Everything that's been going on lately has been really an attack on our identities and our bodies, and so I don't want to turn a blind eye to that for us to be able to show up in this space and speak on those issues. So we're working in a way to try to keep each other safe in the best way that we know how, but we're really just taking it day by day as best as we possibly can. And I'm a little hangry. Lunch was delicious, but I feel like also I could use a little bit more sustenance. So I'm grateful to share this space with you both and all of you. And thank you for the opportunity.
I think that's a very difficult question. But it needs to be answered. So I'm going to start by answering it the way that the farm workers answer that question when we ask them about these times. And I'll just say the way they say it in Spanish. Pues todo el tiempo ha sido así, Rosalinda. Nunca ha sido diferente. Todo el tiempo somos los de abajo. I mean, they say it's always been like that for us, Rosalinda. It's always been hard. We've always been at the bottom of everything. This is just another time that this is happening. And so, ni modo, that's just the way it is. And it's not like they're not worried or concerned, but it's not a panic. For our leaders, I'm talking about the leaders of our movement that have been involved, that have organized, for the leaders that have formed the first independent farm worker-led union in the state of Washington, in fact, in the whole nation, since the United Farm Workers of America was formed in what was it? I can't remember, in the 60s and 70s, right? There's only 2 farm worker unions in Washington state. 3, I think there's one in Oregon, but they don't have a collective bargaining agreement. They don't have a, what do you call it, a union, I forget the name for it, but you know, the folks that have the collective bargaining agreement. It's only Caesars United Farm Workers of America from California and Familias Unidas por la Justicia in Washington state. And these are all indigenous, Triqui, Mixteco farm workers, all of them, 100%. And the majority undocumented. So this is a fighting union. It's, you know, call it scrappy, but very successful, with the largest collective bargaining agreement for farm workers in the state of Washington. Their bargaining unit is actually over 600 and could reach 800 during peak season of berry picking in Skagit County. I wanted to ask something because it's important for me to know. Are there any farmers in this group that are farming? Thank you, those of you that attended, because I want to talk to you. So we're farm workers. I am, you know, my whole family since I can remember, going back to my great-great-great-grandparents in Mexico and in Texas, we have always been farm workers, always. We've always worked the land. So, you know, our food sovereignty movement that we work towards in community to community is so that we can build partnerships with farmers. The fight for our rights, for safe working places, for health in the United States that farm workers have waged since, you know, the United States was founded, requires that we have a partnership, requires that we have a relationship of equity. But more than that we have a relationship because we care about the earth, because we care about our community that eats the food that we grow together. Therefore, that relationship is needed for farm workers to ever truly have justice, to ever truly feel like we're a part of this country, like we belong here. On my father's side, I am from northern Mexico, which was northeastern Texas. We were there for many years before the Mexican-American War. So we're part of this country in many ways. And that's our long term. That's what a solidarity economy center would be. It wouldn't just benefit workers, but it would benefit the farmers that we work with. We want to work with you, not for you, for the betterment of all of our community. So right now, these times, I think, we try to see these times as an opportunity to create something that doesn't exist, something that could be better because it's necessary for all of us to survive these 4 years that are coming. How do we do that? Can we muster the courage, the creativity, and the willpower to work together no matter how tough things have been for us in the past? I just wanted to say that. How do we feel right now? I feel sad because I know we're going to lose some of our leaders. I know they're going to have to, they're going to come to harm. And we're going to fight as much as we can for that not to happen. But the risk and the danger level has been the highest I have ever seen it in this country for farm workers. The highest, the most dangerous. And we're trying to be creative, we're trying to figure it out. But at the same time, all of our elders that we follow, that are no longer with us, like Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, George Hampton, all of our leaders that we know, organizers that have organized, we have to look for that opportunity that's in front of us. No matter what it is, there's got to be something. So we're trying to be hopeful that there's something that we can grab onto But that's not going to happen if we don't all work together. The people that eat the food, the farmers that employ us or want to employ us or employed us in the past, and those of us that are willing to work together here. So sometimes we get very sad. We're meeting all the time right now, trying to figure out. We're assessing all the time. Where is it? What's happened now? Where's the risk level? Where's the opportunity? What are we going to do? It's very intense, but there's got to be something, people. There has to be something.
Thank you, Rosalinda. I really appreciated what you said about that this moment is giving way for a lot of opportunity and creativity. And I feel like the medicine of our agencies and our movements and our work is based in that we exist because there was an opportunity to be taken. There was creativity that came about because of a conflict or because of a tension or because our people were just not being served the way that we wanted them to be served. And what I'm getting at is going to lead us into the next question. But I really, really want to just hold on to that because I do believe that, chaos is the tactic that is being used in this moment to overwhelm our nervous systems. It's the tactic that is being used to render people hopeless. And I think about a quote all the time that says, hopelessness is a tool of the colonizer, and hold the highest vision for our collective liberation always. And I think that's where I've been finding myself in this past couple months is holding that vision, right? And never letting go of that vision because that is the vision that is going to move us forward into this new way of being because we have been told over and over. COVID told us, and we didn't listen. Now we have 4 years of this administration, and I'm really hoping that we listen. And not just listen, but embody the lessons so that we can move differently into a new pathway because, Mama Earth is asking for a new pathway. I think a lot of us are really wanting a new pathway. And so my question to you all is, all this chaos, our nervous systems are being triggered constantly, right? And also, we really need to cultivate the space for imagination and dreams because that's where the possibilities live. And so my question to you all is, how are you helping your leaders, the folks that you serve, that you're in community with that system regulation, in addition to cultivating some space where people can dream and imagine what is to come?
I think that's a really great question, and I really appreciate the reminder of not operating out of a place where we're really feeling the impacts of a lot of the anxiety that's taking place right now, especially in the queer and Pacific or in the queer and trans community. I think it's also important for us to know that in thinking of those innovative ways and those creative ways, we don't have to really, there's not a lot to really recreate. For us, it's important to also lean into the lived experiences of our elders and utilizing ways that they have also navigated through a lot of these of attacks in a way for us to learn from their experiences and put into place what we can practice that works well for us now in the moment. I also want to take an opportunity to lean into the resiliency of our youth who are really taking an active approach in legislation on social media platforms to really call out a lot of the harm that's being inflicted upon us as a community. And I don't know exactly what those solutions are yet at the moment, but it starts by having conversations that are open and honest and raw and maybe even hurting to really find those underlying opportunities for us to create those solutions. I know for us at Utopia Washington, we put into place support groups that are led specifically by our own peers and facilitated by our own peers and providing a space for us to really have those conversations through those dialogues. We also utilize. We also have a free community health clinic that has launched about 3 years ago now that works to provide gender-affirming care for our trans youth or folks who are undocumented that won't otherwise get access to their healthcare needs that they would in a traditional sense if you had proper documentation. And I feel like it's important for us to utilize any measure of activity that we can remove a lot of those barriers so that we're able to better protect ourselves and better protect one another. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
You got time. You can keep going.
I think what we're doing is, I mentioned it a while ago, we're gathering a lot. We're assessing the risk level politically and also economically, because I think a lot of, there are signals coming our way about the detentions and the deportations, right? And we're trying to assess that. We're staying in contact with our partners on a national level and our partners on a regional level who are monitoring different components of Project 2025. I mean, that's what it is. And there's a very specific chapter there for agriculture and labor. And so the recent, what happens when, Trump removed a board member from the Department of Labor? I mean, what are these systems that have existed to provide us some stability, especially in the collective bargaining arena and in the defense of our union? We are an organization that supports the union. The union is its own sovereign organization that governs itself, that monitors it, that negotiates. But we are a support system for, if you're talking 800 farm workers picking at the largest berry farm in Skagit County, that's 800, pretty much, that's probably about 650 families. And then you move those numbers out, right? The spouses and the children and the cousins and everybody. It's a large number of folks. So assessing, how that's happening, how many people have been picked up recently and where, and what are the tactics that are being used, and what can we do to protect that? Does everybody have a valid driver's license? Is your car insured? Are all your lights working on your vehicle? Things like that to try to slow down, I guess, some of the detentions. And then reacting in tactical, strategic ways to the chaos that's being thrown at us. And the reason we meet a lot is because we need to assess everything that's being thrown at us and keep our eyes on the prize in the future, not react immediately and not try to, fall apart at every single little thing. It's like we're a movement and we have a large base. How can we best mobilize that, and how can we use all of that creativity? I'd like to say, because it's true, the leadership of the farm worker community that is the base of community to community is a visionary leadership. They are looking to the future. And they have ideas and solutions that come to us as an organization with all of our white allies and our supporters to develop into broad actions. That's what we're trying to focus on, because we're also trying to survive the next 4 years. And what does that mean? So I guess it's just a constant assessment for us. Because we have partners that work with the schools. We have partners that are working in the healthcare arena, like yourselves, right? I mean, we're trying to bring it all together for political action. And that's another thing. Community to community is a political organization. We're a nonprofit, yes. But, we're also a political organization, unabashedly so. And we're progressive, and you heard our position statement of who we are. We don't, what's the word? We don't hold back on that. That's who we are. And so I don't know how long that's going to be acceptable, I guess, to whoever is in the White House and what they want to do about folks like us. But we're not afraid of that, because we've got you. Literally, we're counting on you, and this is why I'm here, and I'm going to be going out and talking to more folks. So this is a moment to organize. This is a moment to think deeply. Can I just give a few numbers here? I also want to educate you because it's important to us. So I don't know how many of you know this, right? But I just wanted to put some numbers out there. This is numbers according to the Pew Research Center, based on the Census Bureau data, which is probably low. But in Washington State, there's about 325 residents labeled as undocumented as of 2022. That's 4.2% of the state's population, which is higher than the national population, which is at 3.3% undocumented. About 34%, or let's say 30% of all of undocumented population is Mexican. In addition, in Washington State, there's about 200,000 households that have at least one undocumented immigrant in the state. So, you know, our population, it's a large population. And we're not here just twiddling our thumbs. We're like productive people everybody has gotten used to us providing services and emotional support and economic support to the economy of Washington State. I'm a farm worker, so in Washington State, the agricultural sector is worth more than $12.8 billion in Washington State annually. And of the more than 35,900 farms, 95% are family-owned, according to the Washington State Department of Agriculture. So the National Center for Farm Worker Health estimates that more than 70% of agricultural workers nationally were born in another country, and most of them are undocumented. I think it's been clear to our organization that it's anywhere between 70 and 90% of all of the farm workers in the United States are undocumented. And so what does the 2025 report say? The Project 2025 has a very clear plan for replacing undocumented workers with the H-2A, the federal H-2A program, which is a temporary visa program for importing farm workers from other countries, especially Mexico and South America. And that is the plan, to deport the farm workers and the immigrant population that's here, and to remove them or imprison them for slave labor and import workers from other countries to do the work that we've been doing for generations in this country, which is like, really linking the Washington or the national agricultural industry back to its roots. All of the agricultural industry in this country was founded on slavery. And they have been trying since the Civil War to return the agricultural production back to slavery. And it's in the mindset of corporate agriculture to have labor in agriculture as cheap as you can get it. But this administration is moving it as closer to slavery than I have ever seen. And so I am here because this is a critical moment for people who eat, people who farm, and the workers that are helping to provide that labor for food in this country. So it's a very serious moment, and we have to all work together to not allow that to happen. Isaac is passing out a flyer. It has a QR code where you can get more information from us. But everybody needs to understand, if you are a foodie, if you're at these types of conference, you need to understand where your food is going to be coming from if this plan goes through. And I'm never going to, as long as I live, I will not let this country forget what they have done to my people, farm workers, for generations, and what they're planning to do in the future. And I'm going to make sure I leave young organizers that will continue that, because it's wrong. Just like it was wrong to have slavery make the 13 colonies filthy rich so that they could build this nation. It was on the back of black people with the tobacco and other crops, the tea and everything that they were exporting. Now it's apples. Now it's apples. You think that all of those acres of apples in Eastern Washington are a food system? No, señor. That is an exportable product that they're making a profit on while paying workers 40 cents a tree to prune, which is what the workers told us at the tribunal that we had in January. So this is important to me. I'll give up my microphone now.
Thank you, Shalinda. I want to expand on a couple of the points that were made earlier around the chaos and the fear that we are experiencing collectively. I have an answer that I talk to a lot about this, and there's a Maori saying that says, walking backwards into the future, that I really appreciate. And I had a dream the other day where I was told that a lot of people right now are not sitting still enough to listen to the wisdom that their ancestors are telling them. And I tell you all this right now, that there's a lot of us that are not sitting still enough to listen to the wisdom that we need to be listening to. And my elder reminded me that fear and chaos is closing our ears off to a lot of wisdom. And so I just offer that to you all in this moment to take with you, to reflect on it, to share, because I do believe that we need to sit still, even though there is a lot of chaos, because we do deserve the futures that we dream of. We do absolutely deserve the pathways, the dignified pathways that will come from this moment in time. We deserve that. And unfortunately, colonization has taught a lot of our people that they are not deserving, that they are not worthy. And a lot of the work that we're doing right now at Alimentando al Pueblo is undoing the conditioning that white supremacy has imposed on people that makes them believe they are not worthy of living wages, that they're not worthy of good housing, that they're not worthy of public transportation. That is a conditioning. That is a programming, right? And so I just really encourage you all to remind people that you work with and that you serve and that you're in community with, that they are deserving of something much better than what this country is currently or has ever offered us. I think that's really important. Thank you. That wasn't me. That was like, sometimes the ancestors compel you to say something. And back to this question of how you are doing. I'm not going to have you answer it again. But I do want to express that in the past 2 months, I'm sure you've been in meetings where funders, governments, partners have been like, how are you doing? How are you doing? And I personally have been very frustrated with that question because I'm like, I've been telling you for about 5 years since the pandemic how we're doing, and you haven't listened. And I'm pretty sure that the elders in my community have told you how we're doing, and you haven't listened. And so I have a lot of frustration with that question. When people are like, how's your community? Do you need anything? Yeah, money. We've always needed money. We've needed financial resources to do the work that we're doing. And so I just wanted to say that for myself, that is a really frustrating place to be when we are doing the work that we are doing, because we see it every day, right? And so when the pandemic hit, we got all this money, ARPA, CARE Act dollars, all this money was infused into the food system, and now there's no more of that money, and now we're struggling to figure out how to feed families through our our cultural food distributions that are now a thing, right? And it's just really a really interesting dynamic that occurs, that people want to spring to action during crisis. That when there is the threat, like a very visible threat of bodily harm or violence, that is when people are like, I want to organize. And I think a lot of us sitting on this stage can probably say that that's really frustrating because we needed you 5 years ago. We needed you 10 years ago. We needed you 15, 20 years ago. What needs to shift culturally for us to care for each other outside of crisis? How do we sustain that care when we're not actively in an administration like this one, right? So that is my question to you all.
That's a very good question, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And I know we've all experienced moments where the help would come, and the ship has already sailed. The damage has already been done, and it's too late to do anything now. But really lean onto the folks that have consistently showed up to provide support. And I think this moment in time is more critical than ever when we tell you exactly what it is that we're looking for, exactly what it is that we need, that you hear us and do something about it. And I think about a moment in time or an experience that we went to go and advocate last week in Olympia around a lot of the trans issues for Trans Advocacy Day. And to be honest, a lot of our wraparound services that have protected us is now in jeopardy. Things like our ability to amend our legal documents, things such as getting a name change or updating your gender marker on your personal documents, that shouldn't even have to come up right now again. After we fought so long to try to make sure that those policies were put in place for our own protection as queer folk. There were other things that came up to me from an elder, and I'll share an experience about looking into other ways where, yes, capitalism has always been at the forefront or a priority of us, of our own collective work to try to sustain ourselves, but this elder reminded me of moments where we can shift the paradigm from looking at capitalism as a way to sustain ourselves, but really leaning into the practices and the skills of our community members to provide mutual aid and support for everyone. So I think those are just a couple of examples that I can share for folks to take home with. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, in 2014 or 15, when Trump decided he was going to run for president, we knew that was like a weather vane sign. The fact that this man wanted to run for president, and then he actually did, and he had a campaign, and he was actually included. This clown was included like it was normal for this person. And, in 2016, when he actually won, I mean, that was a signal to all of us. Something's off. Because there's nothing more dangerous, in my opinion, than a clown with power. And so here we are, 2025 now. This direction has been very clear to us where this was going. And the defense that should have been there for all community members, for voters, was not there. And we tried, organizations like ours and yours, getting out the vote, doing the thing that we have access to. Even during those moments, me and my leadership, we sat and we thought, this isn't gonna cut it. What you're looking at is an organized worker that was organized by an organizer from the Rainbow Coalition in 1984. And if I hadn't been touched by that person to help elect Jesse Jackson, and then that person taught me, and it was an amazing white woman organizer who did not let me out of her sight, taught me who I was as a farm worker, who Cesar Chavez was, who registered me to vote at the age of 38. I am an organized person that was taught about my own oppression and the systems that existed to keep my family poor on purpose. If I hadn't been founded or, identified, I guess you could say, by the Rainbow Coalition, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I guess what I'm saying is that we need to do that again. That type of touching another human being from a political perspective about the systems that affect our lives every day is not happening at the level that the right wing is touching their communities and teaching them what they think needs to happen. And we're not doing that. So I think now we need to try to save what little is left of that. So it's deep organizing at the precinct level, which is what I was taught by my rainbow organizers. The precinct level, your neighbors, your neighborhood need to educate. That's what we're doing with the H2A program, teaching our community, this is what's coming. If any of you have not been to Brewster, Washington, you should go. That is a tiny little town in the Okanagan area that has been completely taken over by the H2A program. Every tree fruit farm in that area has H2A workers and only H2A workers. You walk down the street, it's no longer the farm worker families that used to live there with their kids in school, living in that small community. It's been completely taken over by this program. That is our future for my town, for Mount Vernon, for all of our agricultural industry. So I think that there's a lot of really hard work that young people need to learn how to do from the bottom up. And I don't know if we have time in the next 4 years. And I don't know, that's who I am. I'm an organizer and I look at things from that perspective. And it works, people. If you read Cesar Chavez's books and how he founded the United Farm Workers, it's there step by step. If you read any information from the landless people's movement in Brazil, it's there step by step. The structures that we have to form ourselves. We at C2C form our own participatory democracy structures with our own base and our own people so people can learn how do you collectively make a decision and move collectively together to a change that you decided as a community, which is what this country is supposed to be about. It's a lot of work. That's all I can tell you is you can't just leave it on somebody else. You can't leave it on the Democratic Party. You can join it and use it somehow to hopefully create we have done that. In Whatcom and in Skagit County, we have progressive Democratic Party groups, and they're helpful and they're useful. That's just one thing. There's other ways. I just think we need to organize. We can't, and on the money part, I just want to, and this is what I've been saying to funders, we're not asking for $35,000, we're not asking for $50,000. We need several $1 million. Because I think we need to buy our own buildings, our own piece of land. We need to own our home. We need to own our political homes. We need lots and lots of money, people. We need millions of dollars coming to us so that we have a home for our community to go to and not be kicked out. I know what it's like not to be able to rent a community space for your community meetings. And, for our organization, we pretty much did everything volunteer. With no staff, just volunteers up until, honestly, the pandemic, when money was just thrown at us. We're like, what the heck, right? Where were you 5 years ago when our cooperative had to fold because we couldn't, nobody would fund our business plan. So, we've got a lot of work to do. It's organizing. I don't want to be depressing.
I think I want to lift up the relationship aspect that this organizer that you met when you were younger, and the ways in which this person touched your lives. And I do not think, given social media and that we're creating parasocial relationships, we're not really in relationship with one another. And I think that we need to, do social media because it has its purpose. And I just really, really encourage you all to meet people and to talk to them and to have lunch with them, break bread with them. That is really, really missing. It's really missing. And I think that when I have those conversations or when I'm having those touch points with people, I love what Adrienne Marie Brown says about emergent strategies, that it's the small things, right? Yes, the big things are important, but it's the way that we greet each other at the grocery store. It's the way that we say hi to people who are coming into our food bank, right? It's the way that we talk to people at the gasoline station, right? If we open the door for our elders or not. It's those small little interactions that really have the power to shift. If you haven't read Adrienne Marie Brown's work, I highly encourage y'all to. It talks a lot about just like the small things, right, are what builds to these larger movements. And so I really encourage you all to deepen your relationships, to build relationships, and not do it through social media, you know? And so we are almost at the end of time, and I do want to leave some time for question and answer. But I do want to end with a question around dreams and imagination. If you were to think or spell out for us or describe for us the kind of world that you hope from this moment in time, what would that world look like?
It's kind of tough for me to imagine what that could look like, especially under this current administration. But I think what we're working towards right now is really uplifting our community members to be in a position where their identities are valued, their dignity is affirmed, their genders are not even a fucking question, if I could. Excuse me, but not sorry. Sorry, too low level. But yes, I feel like those are some of the key things that we can look at as far as like creating that vision. And I think it's important that we first and foremost really lean into our allies to really be the voice in those public spaces or in those private spaces when you're having discussions with legislators right now to make sure that all of those protections are in place for not just LGBTQ folks, but for folks who are undocumented, folks who have lived experiences as sex workers, folks who have folks who are unhoused, folks who have substance use, histories with substance use. And I think this is the most opportune time right now for us to really count on you, your allyship, and your resources to create that world together in harmony with all of us here. And thank you so much for that question.
I think no matter what time, when we talk about these visions of a better future, there's always going to be a better world possible, you know? And I think that that's part of our theme. But remember, I'm a farm worker. So for me, the world would be close to that if each and every one of you can sit down to dinner with who you want to eat with, who you love, and know that every piece of food on your plate, you know in your heart, was not produced with any type of exploitation. That none of it, the production of that food did not damage the air, the water, or the land where it was produced. That no human being had to suffer like my people suffer in picking all of these berries and whatever, the meat, that all of it, the animals that you're eating were treated with dignity and they're healthy, and that you are not going to get sick from that food. It's going to make you feel happy because it's good for you, because it was produced in a good way. When we get to that point, we've had these discussions for years, and if you try to do that now, you'd probably starve to death if every day you try to ensure that the food that you're eating didn't exploit the earth or a human being or an innocent creature. That's where we have to get to, because that means that everybody worked together to produce that food, that it's being sold properly, that it's being packaged properly, that, you know, so many things have to change in the food chain to get that plate of food to you in that manner. And I think that's what we call, if we reach food sovereignty, which is the individual sovereignty to be able to eat what you want, when you want it, the way that you want to eat it, where you want to eat it. And then food sovereignty includes the earth and all of the other innocent creatures that we're harming just to get a piece of meat on our plate or whatever, you know? That for us is, that's the ultimate goal.
Thank you for sharing your dreams and speaking your dreams in this space. My dream for my community is for them to be joyful. I think that being able to live a fulfilled life without barriers or impositions is my vision for my people, is for them to be able to have joy, for there to be unrelenting joy. And so I thank you both for your wisdom. Thank you. I just want a special thank you to you, Rosalinda, because the way that you steward your gift and your medicine has allowed for me to do what I can do down in King County with my community. So I just thank you as my elder and as someone who is doing this work. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for paving the path for people like me to do what we're doing. And thank you, Tweety, for being with us on this panel and sharing a little cutie pie flavor on the stage with us. And so we have about 9 minutes for Q&A. And so, oh. All right. So yeah, if folks have any questions, comments, dreams, goals, aspirations, any or all of the above, now is your time.
Thank you all for this presentation. My name is Zoe Plakis. I'm a professor at Western Washington University. I'm wondering, I know you said, you wish that people had been with you 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and there are lots of people showing up now, and they're saying, well, I'm here now. I wasn't here 5 years ago, but I'm here now. What are you seeking in each of your organizations in terms of, from allies for each of your communities, and what are the ways that you are asking allies to show up for you, and how can that be supportive and not harmful and a hindrance to your work?
I need you to all call every farmer that you know and ask them to not contract H-2A workers. That is the most important issue for us right now. Is that, and you call your legislators and you ask them to do not allow the corporate agricultural producers to continue to try to remove or amend and weaken the farm workers' overtime law. Farm workers are now eligible to be paid overtime, and when farmers pay workers for what they really work, including overtime, it allows farm workers to have a closer to living wage than they've ever had before. And so this is a big conversation that I'd like to have with farmers. This whole thing on overtime, we just managed to defeat 2 bills in the legislature where the corporate agricultural industry came in to amend the overtime law, and this is the 3rd year they've done it since it was introduced. So you need to speak to your legislators and tell them, if it happens again, don't let it get through the legislature, because we deserve it. We deserve it. And the myth that a farm is going to go broke if I have to pay overtime I've never seen any farm go under whenever a farm worker gained any type of benefit. So I need you to help us with that right now. And when we call, like for the Farm Worker Tribunal, or a march or a protest on a farm or a product, maybe even boycott a product, that's when we need you. That's what farm workers need right now.
Thank you. I think for us, we're really looking for additional support right now regarding a bill that is that affects a lot of our gender-based violence programs. And I know there's a request that's being passed through legislature right now to increase a little bit of that supplemental funding at the moment, but that specific funding is what really drives our team, our staff at Utopia to really continue our care work services and our food access network program right now in this very moment. And so a lot of that funding is also being jeopardized, and we're sitting in a place right now where we don't know where to look for funding that will help us sustain a lot of our work. And I'll share recently an experience that we had in combination. We were in partnerships with Living Well Kent regarding a second farm location in Puyallup at the Mother Earth location, where 8 of their acres were going to be divvied up with other nonprofit organizations. We were a part of that collaboration, and unfortunately, the DEI funding that has just come out at the federal level has impacted that work that we were working around to sort of secure. And my heart goes out to the folks at Living Well Kent, because they're the ones who are really leading a lot of that for a number of years, actually. And so it's things like that, that we're really trying to look out for. But I think if there's one particular thing that I can uplift, it's the gender-based violence funding right now that we're looking to be able to hopefully push through so that we can continue to provide the important work through our heart work with community.
I'm gonna add something. I really need you to have a regulated nervous system when you come to us. Do not bring your chaos to our communities. I think that outside of money and financial resource, please, I just ask you to take a couple deep breaths before you send us an email, before you send us a text, before you give us a call, because 3 deep breaths can give you a lot of clarity on how to proceed forward. But I just really ask that you don't come to us like, oh my God, what is happening? That's not helpful. That's really not helpful. And the best thing you could do in this moment is just ground yourself, do the things you gotta do to regulate that nervous system, because we cannot protect people if we are coming from a place of chaos or overwhelm. We actually run the risk of causing an incredible amount of harm if we do not do our own work to be grounded and calm. So that is my request outside of money. Money is always important.
Right. So I asked to put that panel up there because there's a couple of QR codes, but one of the things I wanted to make sure everybody saw is there's actually a Know Your Rights and a how-to for employers. So if Homeland Security or ICE shows up at your workplace, what do you do? What are the things you need to do? And I think that is really important right now, to be prepared with that. And that's why we went to all the trouble to get these QR codes and that information up there. But the other thing is, I'm just gonna follow up on what you just said. For all white people, you need to go to other white people and get them to do the right thing, especially those that voted for Trump. You need to talk to them, because there's gotta be ways that they can understand. You need to make them understand. That's how you can help us, is go to your folks. Try to calm them down. Try to make them see the real reality of what's happening.
Yeah, talk to them, because I don't want to talk to them. It might not be talking. I think we are at time. But y'all, can we get a round of applause, please, for our wonderful panelists? I appreciate y'all being in this conversation with us today, listening. Again, I encourage you all to take the gems that you learned, reflect with them, sit with them, and then integrate them into your being. Because we got to be embodied in these moments. We can't just listen and spew these nice phrases that we said. We really got to be what we say we're going to be. And so thank you all for being here, listening to us, and being in this space. And I really, truly hope that all of our dreams come true. And that's what we're working for.